it's Julie the Bibliophile. Sorry for the wet hair and stuff. This is the first time this season that I'm recording my episode review immediately after the episodes, because it's the first time I have time. And like last time, I'm going to do separate episode reviews for both episodes 5 and 6, because they were each so brilliant that they each deserve their own video talk. But I'm going to talk about episode 6 first. So this is going to be a discussion about the Librarians and the Graves of Time, because I have some things to say. Oh my god. First of all, I love that episode. It's probably going to take its place as one of my favorites now. And I'm going to say right off the bat that I think everything that's been written here makes total and complete sense. It makes sense for Flynn's character. It makes sense for the story this season. It makes sense for the story of the whole show. I don't think it's bad writing. As upset as I am about what just happened, I don't think it's bad writing at all. So spoiler alert from here on out. But I just love, this show never fails to astound me. You know, every season I say that they can't have Flynn leave again. If Noah's not going to be in all the episodes, they have to have him, like, get separated for a different reason than leaving, because I always say that after every time he, you know, recovers and says he's going to stay, it would be inconsistent character writing for him to leave again, but somehow they always find a way to do it that feels really natural and just works. I think I love it. I think it's brilliant, and as someone who loves Flynn and who identifies with Flynn and who loves the Librarians, I love this journey for Flynn. I really, honest to God, do. I think it's an important and necessary part of Flynn's journey. I'm going to get into more details about that later. I also love what they're doing with Jenkins, and I think with everything we've heard with Jenkins this season and last season, this is a very important part to Jenkins' story, too, and I think it lines up with everything we've always seen for him for the whole show. And with this season having a lot of talk about immortality, I think this makes total sense for Jenkins. I do not, however, like Nicole Noon. You know, they had me going for a while because she starts and I'm, like, cursing her out. And then I'm finding out her story and I'm like, oh, you know what, Nicole, maybe I still don't like you, but maybe you're not all that bad. And then they had me going for a while and I was having feelings for Nicole and I'm like, you know what, okay, Nicole, you can do, and then no, Nicole can go die in a ditch. I have so much to say. I don't think I'm going to talk about the plot or what happened because I have so much to say about the writing and the characters. First of all, I'm so excited to see the Romanov lore. You guys don't understand. After I saw Anastasia the musical last year, I spent like 2 weeks of my life literally reading everything that I possibly could about the Romanovs. I was obsessed. The Romanov family is like my favorite era of history. It's my favorite non-fiction story, so I love to see my favorite fiction story, the Librarians, and my favorite non-fiction to study, the Romanovs, combined into one. They started talking about Rasputin, and I'm like, Rasputin! And then, like, the guy comes, and he's like, I'm the survivor, I'm the descendant of the last survivor of the Romanov family, and I'm like, whoa, dude, that's so cool! But, like, oh my god, and then he was Rasputin, which I saw coming in the last 5 seconds, but I didn't see coming the whole time, and I was just so amazed. I'm just so amazed by this whole episode. It's so good. So we had this whole history with Nicole fighting Rasputin, the back and forth, the mystery. You didn't know who to trust, and that puts you right into the world with the characters, of not knowing who to trust, of the back and forth. And then we get to the end. So I guess the first thing I'm going to talk about is Jenkins transferring his immortality to Nicole. I don't know if Nicole's mortal now and Jenkins just gave her life, but Jenkins is mortal now. And what we see is everybody, including Flynn, everybody's crying to think that Jenkins is mortal and Jenkins is gonna die now, but it makes so much sense, and I'm honestly so happy for Jenkins. We've had a lot of talk of this season, because even Flynn are considering being immortal, we've had a lot of talk this season about, you know, what are the consequences of being immortal? And Nicole says every part of being immortal hurts. And Jenkins explains to them, you need something to tether you to that reality. Last season, we saw that once Charlene lost Judson, she was done. She went off to a sanctuary and spent her last years alive just, like, being alone, because she could not handle living. She couldn't handle living, being immortal, without Jenkins. Without Judson. She could not handle going on without Judson, because Judson was her anchor. She loved Judson, and Judson was what kept her anchored to this reality. And so when she lost Judson, he was in the mirror originally after he died, but then when he passed on completely, she can't have contact with Judson anymore. And I think that's just too much for Charlene. I just think she can't do it. And so we see Charlene gives up her immortality. Charlene dies because she's done. She's been alive for a couple of millennia now, and now the person that kept her going through that is gone. And Jenkins has had a lot of talk about Charlene kept him anchored. And now he's been doing okay because he has the Librarians. And it's not that he doesn't love the Librarians, but it's not enough to keep him anchored to want to be immortal, because eventually they're all gonna die. And so Jenkins obviously has some life left now, but eventually now Jenkins is gonna die. And he's gonna die and he's gonna be with Charlene again. Even if Charlene's with Judson, he can see Charlene again. He can be with Charlene again, and because he can't go on being immortal. Maybe he can go on living, but he can't go on being immortal unless he has Charlene, unless he has that anchor. And I think Jenkins was probably always headed to this place. As early as season 2, we see him talking about missing Arthur and wanting to see Arthur again, wanting to see any of his friends again. And so Jenkins, when you're immortal, it's so clear that you lose so many people as an immortal. And so Jenkins is done. Jenkins is done being immortal, and I think even if he had not needed to save Nicole, I think Jenkins would have wanted to die anyway. And he's not dead yet! He's not dying right away, he's just mortal now. And I think that's so great for him. I really do think that's a really important part of Jenkins' journey. I think it's a perfect conclusion to Jenkins' journey. And it just makes so much sense, and I love it so much, and I never expected that. And I was screaming no when it happened, but then upon further reflection, I'm like, yes! Jenkins deserves this. Because, you know, eventually the Librarians are gonna die. I mean, even Flynn might become immortal, but, again, even if he loves his new library family and it's enough to keep him living to finish a mortal life, but it's not enough to keep him immortal. To live again for more millennia without Charlene, without Arthur, without Judson, it's not happening. Jenkins is done, and I think what we see in this show is that every immortal eventually reaches the end of their rope. Every immortal eventually reaches that end of the line where they say, I can't do it anymore. I can't go on anymore watching all the people I love die. And honestly, like, how would you expect that to happen? Like, being immortal is tough. You know, like, when you're a kid, you think about, I want to live forever, but then you start to get older, and you start to think about, you know, as scary as death can sometimes be, like, not ever seeing your loved ones. If you believe in an afterlife, the idea of, like, all your loved ones going on and not seeing them again because you're not dying it's terrifying. And it's something that I've thought about a lot this season with this immortality thing for Even Flynn. As much as I love it, because I love Even Flynn, I think about them watching the Litts die. If the Litts have children, watching the children, and all the descendants of the Litts die. But you know, it would be okay for them because they have each other. But Jenkins is alone now. Jenkins doesn't have the power of... Jenkins doesn't have Charlene. And so I just really want to reinforce how much I love this for Jenkins. I love it. I love it. I will spread my love for this episode and this writing so much because it's getting a lot of flack right now, and I just think it's brilliant. I think every part of it is brilliant, and it makes so much sense. It might have made me mad when I first saw it, but then as soon as I think about it, I'm like, no, this is in character, this makes sense, and this is in perfect alignment with what the journey of the show has always been. And now I want to talk about Flynn. Oh, Flynn. This hurts a lot. You know, I'm sorry. The journeys Flynn go through always seem to be a perfect reflection of the ones I go through. And Flynn is so important to me. And I learned so many lessons from watching him. Oh God, I've never cried in one of these things before. So as I've talked about on here, as I've talked about on Twitter and Tumblr and stuff, I went through a really rough 6 months that I'm still coming out of, where I didn't know if I loved the Librarians anymore, and that was tough for me because the Librarians has been so important to me in helping me find myself, and it's been so much more than a TV show to me. And so for me, the symbolic representation of that is how the Librarians feel about the library. And so to see Flynn have to doubt that thing that gave him his home. I've been through it, and seeing someone who's so like me go through it is just so profound. And it makes so much sense for Flynn. It really, really does. Because Flynn has had that seed of doubt planted in his mind. And knowing Flynn, knowing Flynn's mind, knowing Flynn in the past, once that seed of doubt is planted for Flynn, it's not something that goes away. And as someone who thinks a lot like Flynn, once that seed of doubt is planted, guys, I'm sorry, the notification just popped up that Dean liked my tweet about being protective of Flynn. Hi, Dean! But, so now that I'm crying, it's kind of like I said, what I went through this summer and this fall. Once that seed of doubt is planted, even if you know it's bullshit and it's crap, and of course it's bullshit and crap that the library would be a prison to him, but once that seed of doubt is planted, now by multiple people, it just spirals and spirals and spirals until he can't escape from it. So of course he runs, because he's scared. And Flynn runs when he gets scared. That's him! That's what he's always been! And that's what's so beautiful about him. He's such a good person, and he cares so much about the people he loves. But his fear and his trust issues and everything he's been through in the past leads him to do things that hurt those people that he loves. And then that just gives him more guilt about hurting them because he loves so deeply. I love Flynn, and he's the most brilliant character I've ever seen in any form of fiction. Excuse me, I have to fix my hat. So it totally makes sense for me that Flynn would just run. And in terms of people saying, like, you know, he should have talked to Eve first. Like, he should have, yeah, but he didn't, because that's him. I mean, I think for Flynn, I think he's scared. I think talking to Eve about it would have made him more scared. Not that, it probably actually would have calmed him down because Eve knows him so well, but I think for him, he was scared of talking to Eve because he was scared of what would happen, what he would think, what he would do if he talked to Eve about it. And I think he was so scared that he just felt like he needed to go. He needed to not tell anyone and just go, and talking to Eve might have just planted more confusion in his mind, might have sent him to more back and forth. And I think he just wanted to escape that. I think he's scared. I think he's scared, and he's running because he's scared. And I want to take him in my arms and hold him and say, it's okay. Part of me wants to slap him upside the head and say, what are you doing? But I just want to hold him. I want to hug him. I want to jump through that TV screen and hug him and say, Flynn, come home. And I'm also really mad at Nicole. Because I don't think Nicole knows Flynn at all. I think this reinforces that Nicole does not know Flynn at all. She doesn't, because if she did, she never would have told him that the library was a prison to him. Because she would have known how important it was to him. Nicole didn't know him before the library. Nicole, judging by the context clues we've gotten, they didn't have a long enough relationship for her to have talked to him about what he was like before the library. Nicole doesn't know what happened to him in the 10 years after she was dead. She doesn't know. She doesn't know, and she can't comprehend then how much the library means to Flynn. She can't. She may love him, and she may think she knows what's right, but she cannot comprehend that without the library, Flynn is nothing. And it's not that he's nothing. It's not that the library is his only, but the library is his home. It didn't just help him figure out that he could have a purpose, like she said. The library is his purpose, and that's like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, but now she's planted this seed of doubt in his mind to make him think that there is something wrong with that. And I went through the same thing as I was talking about Flynn's journey, like always being kind of the same as mine. Nicole, I'm mad that Nicole planted that seed of doubt, because anybody who knows Flynn really well would know that saying something like that to him would do this to him. Eve would know that. Eve knows now, after years of being together and going through ups and downs together, she knows not to give him tough love because she knows what it does to him. She knows to be gentle with him, and she knows how much the library means to him. And that's why I wish he had talked to her, but it makes sense to me that he didn't, but I wish he had talked to her because she could have told him that. But Nicole made him so scared, and Darrington Dare made him so scared that he didn't even feel like he could talk to her. I don't even know if I'm wording this properly, but it hurts me. It hurts me to think about what's going to happen to Flynn now, because he's going to go off searching for something else to define him. He's going to go off searching, like, to be something other than the library, and he's going to learn and get hurt all over again, and learn and get hurt again, because he's been hurt so often, and he's going to get hurt again, and learn that, you know, he's nothing without the library, but then he's probably not going to come back, because he's going to feel like he hurt and let everyone down, and he doesn't deserve to come back, because that's Flynn. That's who he's always been. Oh, I just spilled tea. So that kind of concludes how I feel about episode 6. I loved it for the episode and the adventure and the mystery and the action, and I loved it for the writing. Because it reminds me how good the writing in this show is, and that they're never gonna fail to astound me. And I'm hurting so much for Flynn. I'm just hurting so much for Flynn. And I think about what Eve is going through right now. Eve would be going through the pain of knowing Flynn left her. Eve would be going through the pain of not having him there because she loves him. And Eve would be going through the pain of, you know, of knowing, of what I was saying, because Eve knows Flynn. And she loves him, and she knows that leaving the library would hurt him. She knows that, and so now she knows what he's going through, and she doesn't have contact with him. This episode was so brilliant, but it hurts so much at the same time. But, like, great job to everybody involved with the Librarians. Great job to the whole team. I love what you're doing here. Keep doing it. Keep telling important stories, because you're really making a difference. So that's it for this episode. You can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. All links are in the description. Also check in the description for a link to my review of End the Bleeding Crown, episode 5. This was my talk about episode 6. This is the last week of double episodes. Next week we're back to 1 episode a week, finally. It's gonna be a long 5 weeks without Flynn, but I know we can do this, and I just can't wait to see, what journey we get to see the rest of the characters go through. We were kind of focused on Flynn, and I love Flynn, but now I get to see what Jake's gonna go through this season, what Cassandra's gonna go through this season, and I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to feel connected to my Lits again, too. If you like this episode, please remember to like and subscribe, and remember during the episodes to be live tweeting at TNT Drama to tell them how much you want a season 5 of The Librarians, so together we can save our favorite show. I will see you guys next week reviewing episode 7, and until then, stay magical, Lits. I love ya. Bye.